Family makes over $1 million a year with a minor cocaine distribution network.
Elaborate underground trafficking networks are moving goods, both illicit and exotic, right under our noses all the time. They can get you whatever you want. Drugs, guns, even a pet Komodo dragon. Ooh, that doesn't sound like a bad idea. As long as you're willing to pay the price. That actually sounds kind of cool. A new Discovery Channel series is giving us an unprecedented look into the lives of smugglers who are working right in the heart of the underground. And the guest spot today, our personal Sherpa of illegal back alley business, filmmaker Mark Allen Johnson, producer of Discovery Channel's Extreme Smuggling, which airs tonight at 8 p.m. Mark, welcome.
Thank you. How are you guys doing today?
Good. So I want to talk about drugs and what are some of the most innovative, surprising ways that people are getting drugs into this country?
I mean, you know, if you watch the series, you're going to see that there's a lot of crazy things that people do. Some of them you heard of, some of you haven't. But I think that the interesting thing that I found out is that there's like a network of individuals who smuggle things into our country unbeknownst to themselves. Meaning, say you had a grandma and you were from Peru. She might come visit you. And what happens is this courier service will pay for the grandma's ticket to come visit her family members. And when she gets there, her only deal is she has to bring goods back with her into the country. Now, she places orders all the time herself with this service to have her favorite cakes, her favorite soaps, her favorite anything brought to her. So it's something that she's used to. So when she brings back these goods, she doesn't inspect them. So it's a human courier service on a smaller scale where they're bringing in these drugs, smuggling all these smaller components. And who would think it looking at a small grandma, I guess. So I think that that was one of the things that fascinated me most.
Well, yeah, so you know, grandma from Peru is sort of the unwitting participant in this, but I guess I'm kind of wondering about the masterminds behind this, you know, plot like that. I guess you had to have some cooperation from them, first of all, in you know, finding out how their world works. I wonder how you could even have gotten cooperation from them, just given how, I guess the word is illegal, their activities are. and I just want to wonder who these people are. What are they like?
Well, I mean, I can't give you too much information, but sure, I mean, anytime I go into a situation that's dangerous, I have to go in at the top. If you go in any of the layers below, you're going to run into a problem and something bad is going to happen to you. So I have to start at negotiating with someone in a really high level. I mean, they're people just like you and me, but they just operate in different countries. They have families, they have kids that go to school, and they have the same concerns that we have. They just make a living at something differently, and that's transporting, at least if we're talking about the Peru episode, they're transporting cocaine. I mean, cocaine isn't...
I think it's just like cocaine, they're very different than we are.
Really?
Really? I mean, what is it that I guess what is it that would attract you? You know, I work here and I need a paycheck. Maybe that's probably the reason to do it. Is it desperation that drives them to, oh, we have to do cocaine, we can't do anything else, or...
What, are you talking about the user or are you talking about the smuggler?
No, the smuggler. I mean, there are a lot of things you could do that aren't going to be this illegal.
Right, but I mean, that's easy judgment to place on a guy who's making a lot of money, who's sitting in a chair there, and he's got all this good stuff going for him. Imagine if you were raised in the jungle and your family raised you to grow coca your whole life, and you processed it, and you guys didn't even know anything about the end product, that all you did is tape it up, wrap it up, and ship it away, and that allowed you to have your toys, and that allowed you to have your car, and that allowed your sister to have her wedding, and so on and so forth. And there wasn't even any violence associated with that. So when that's what happens and your mom grows old and she dies and you take on that and you have no other education, it's kind of hard to get that person to step outside of the life. And so for me, that's the interesting component now, is me being able to step into these people's lives and really go, can I rationalize what they do? And I mean, for the most part, like you said, it's hard to really rationalize it because I have this greater knowledge. But for them, they live in a very insular environment, and that insular environment is one that dictates that they need to make a living and they need to put food in their mouth. And that's just what they're doing. And that's kind of the problem that we have here. There's a demand in the United States for these drugs, and there's a demand over there for those people to be able to survive. And so that's the big picture.
Well, and you know, we mentioned drugs and weapons, but what about exotic animals? How big is that industry, and how can Teray get a Komodo dragon?
Well, I can't help him facilitate anything illegal.
Come on.
Talk to him after the show.
Yeah, right. Okay. I mean, the thing is I didn't realize how big the illegal animal trade is, but those crime syndicates are just as big, if not bigger, than some of the biggest drug syndicates in the world. And they operate all over in Southeast Asia. And, you know, things do trickle back to here. But when you're talking about the animal trade, it's really a cultural thing. I mean, when you look, China is one of the main consumers of these products. And what happens is like I went to Cambodia, I went to Laos, I went to Thailand, I went to all these places. These people are raised culturally to eat some of these products. I mean, they might even eat bear. They might eat bear bile. They might eat a tiger because they think that it makes them, you know, more machismo, more of a man. But it was more on a smaller scale. It might have been on special occasions and so on and so forth. But as you have this growing population in China, which is one of the main causes of these problems, and more of this culture that thinks that you need this, there's more of a demand. So it goes back to the poor peasant, the poor farmer, the poor person who really doesn't have the ability to survive. They're hunters and gatherers still out there in those environments. And so a guy comes to town and goes, I can make you a fast buck if you get me this little animal. And they go, oh, we've got those everywhere. So they go grab the animals, they collect them, they hand them to the next guy, they have their money, and they keep going. What they don't realize is the degradation that they're doing to the environment and to the whole system of the animals and so on and so forth. So it really is, it's an educational thing. We like to have knee-jerk reactions here in the United States to, hell no, we're going to shut this down. This is a problem. You know, let's slap someone on the wrist. But unfortunately speaking, what I saw is a lot of time the people who are getting slapped on the wrist are the poor guy at the low level. The ramifications for grabbing the animals and doing those things, it really strikes hard at the small guy, but it's really hard to stick it to the bigger organization. So I thought that that was pretty compelling.
Well, and Mark, speaking of problem solving here in the U.S., you also focused on illegal gun smuggling. And I was wondering if you found anything out about that operation that our legislators should keep in mind as we're moving forward with this debate on gun control.
I mean, I don't want to get into a political conversation. I mean, the thing that I will say that was surprised is how easy it is to get an illegal gun. I mean, if you know the right person, I could have a gun in an hour. I could place a phone call right now. I mean, I do know the right person, but I could literally put in an order. Also, guns, the people who sell guns might have been people who transitioned from drugs to guns. And the things is when you sell drugs, you have people that show up to your house. They might be on edge. You know, I don't know. They're just a little bit more sketchy to deal with. The gun sales guys told me, hey, listen, a gun is a great... What's that?
I said a little more upscale, the gun sellers.
I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say it's upscale. What I'm saying is the gun has a tangible value. So if I purchase the gun, these people are purchasing guns to put in work, as they say, do work on the street, which means probably do harm to someone. Once they do that, they turn around and sell the gun again, and they get their money back. They only lose like 20% value on that shift. So it's kind of an easy thing to move around the streets, and there's always a need in the streets for a gun. I mean, you got to protect yourself. So I thought that was really fascinating.
All right, Mark Allen Johnson, I'll call you after the show about that dragon, okay?
We'll get you on that.